Hello, hello, hello. What's up? What's up? What's up? This is Dr. Lariat, aka Black Tiger for the Culture, aka Crying Tiger Mask, aka Jacko Chun the Liger, aka Ultimo Dragon Fruit, aka The Great Swag Skate, aka The Bougie Man, and of course, this is The Prescription. This is Poly Follies. This is about the Polypod, and I have with me really great guests here. We're going to talk about something important, but first let me give them the best introduction I can. I have, of course, he has a new podcast out there. He's on YouTube. Tennessee, Ten410. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How you doing there?
I'm great, man. And of course, we have a very great guest here. Vaunted writer, husband, dad, educator, football coach, Rich Fann. How you doing, Rich Fann?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to work with you guys tonight, and I apologize for doing it from the road as I got to dad it up and pick my son up from practice.
Hey man, we are. I understand things happen. Just to let people know, this was supposed to be from my other show, Slap Masters Entertainment System, which just debuted this week. We were gonna watch some really good matches featuring some really great wrestlers, and we'll get to that someday. Maybe we'll get to that something after this, but I just thought it'd be great on this, of course, for for one company, for one place to celebrate Black History Month, as I do here. I appreciate Black culture. Black culture is culture. As I say all the time, man, if it wasn't for Black people, we wouldn't have anything cool. So to have two African American gentlemen on my show who have lived experiences, and we're gonna about to talk, Black excellence in pro wrestling. Well, we'll talk Black excellence and other things. But yeah, I just love having you guys on this show. We're about to talk some good things, and we're just gonna uplift people because even with pro wrestling nowadays compared to where we were 30 years ago, things are so much better. Things are so much better for people of color, for Black people. We got such big stars on the main stage. People like Swerve Strickland, people like Obafemi, people like Willow Nightingale, people like Ricochet, people like this is people like BDE and TNA, who's also a YouTube influencer. People like I know this is outside of wrestling, but I show Speed going to Africa and showing that Africa isn't just dirt, that it's actually like modern civilization, big cities, big malls, big everything. It's a different time for y'all. It's a different time, and I'm happy to see Black excellence in the modern day, whether it be like pro wrestling, whether it be in entertainment, and streaming is the whole new wave of things. It's great to see people of color, African American people, African English people, be in sort of the zeitgeist of all these things that we're consuming, and I'll let you guys speak to it, but like it's really good to see that nowadays where, for the most part, the normal people accept it. Okay, not the we could talk about those people all day every day, the bigots, the racists, the people who want to go back to when America was great again, so to speak. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to uplift, and I just want to ask you guys like how you feel about all this stuff now.
Tennessee, you want to kick off?
Okay, sure. I'll kick it off. It is just so joyous to see representation presented fully, minus stereotypes. You can finally just look on the screen and see somebody presented special, somebody, presented impactful, and have just not that dread of disgust in the back of your mind.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're a long time away from Crime Time coming out, doing dirt, and getting into a Django and Shane whipping match between each other for Massa McMahon. We're a long time away from that. So it's great. It sucks that we had talent that had to do that sort of degrading stuff back in the day, and to see like a guy like this guy Swerve Strickland be at this level in pro wrestling. It's great to see Trick Williams come out and the entire crowd is chanting for him. and he feels like the biggest star in the room compared to like a guy like Sami Zayn, who's been a big star for WWE. I always say Sami Zayn's the reason that the bloodline took off as it did. It's
Mm-hmm.
great to see talent like him, talent like Javon Evans take off. We so bouncy. You know, Kevin Nash, that shit you said was foul, and you should feel bad about saying that. And I love this stuff, man. I love this stuff. Like, when is the last time you saw like wrestlers of color presented as such big stars, like Mercedes Moné being one of the biggest stars in the world? Not just like in pro wrestling, she's like a name and a brand unto herself, and it's great to see her get this sort of respect and this sort of like treatment as as one of the big franchises for a company like AEW, and we're seeing that in places all around. I mean, some places such as the World Whining Federation could do much better because I don't think they're celebrating Black History Month once again. We're in year two of not celebrating Black History Month, but to each their own. What say you, Rich?
Well, I think I'm always of two minds when I think about wrestling, and I think about where it's been, where it's going, where it's going. Uh, I think the showing the highlight package or throwing the advertisement up that says celebrating black wrestlers and you have everybody in the thing is one thing. But I will say, to the credit of at least the Performance Center, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago over at the Torch, but it does my heart good that in addition to seeing different variants of the black experience as wrestlers, they also now have, to me, a personal legend in Jazz as a trainer because
That's
not
great.
every black woman is going to be wanting to be in a Candice role or in a like a diva-esque role or a crazy role. But if you have someone who's just a legitimate tough person, Jazz or Miss Jackie would be the first two women I would think of, and then followed very closely by Awesome Kong. And so to have Jazz training, I think that takes a little bit of the polish because I don't want every wrestler to look the same. And again, to your point with Kevin Nash, I don't want every black wrestler to look and act the same. Because
Yeah.
if you look at the generation Javon Evans is representing, like my son's going to be 14 in 2 weeks, he identifies more with Javon than he would with Booker T.
Yeah, man. The when he said, "Oh, I expect things to be a little more urban," like that's a specific word used by people to mean, he wants him to be a thug, he wants him to be rough and tumble, but that is not the kind of person that Javon Evans is. Like, there's this weird thing where black wrestlers are painted into a corner where they either have to be like, it's either they're comedy guys who are, do those other things, or they're like hardened thug characters. And I say thug with the worst like connotations of it. And because that's when you hear the word thug, and then you see the wrestlers that usually have that sort of like look and the appeal of it, it's a very specific thing that's coached in like '90s stereotypes of African Americans and Black people. It's just it's a very backwards way of thinking of like what representation is, because but beyond like, because I come to like look at like Asian wrestlers, or for some reason everyone is either Chinese or Japanese, or any Filipino wrestler is made Hawaiian. Hello, Jeff Cobb. uh, but we're just wrestling's a different world now, for the most part, and I think that having these sort of like specific viewpoints of like what does make a black wrestler stand out, and it coming from Kevin Nash as a white voice who says because he read things like Jet magazine and XXL that he knows the pulse of what's of what's in the black youth culture. And I think that's hilarious because who the hell reads Jet magazine in 2026? But it's I don't even think they make that anymore. But it's very backwards thinking about how people are presented, because I know you two are not two guys who come from like usually the sort of like urban area that Kevin Nash is talking about, that kind of character that the guys that we see from The Wire, that or like Menace to Society, that's been like characterizations in wrestling forever, from like guys like New Jack and the Gangstas all the way up to you know even like the Street Profits, a little bit were kind of like hardened in some way like that. It's a specific way that wrestlers are presented, that sort of like it's stereotyping, and it's the worst kind of stereotyping. And I feel like we're beyond that.
Yeah, and I think there's also similar to the Javon Evans with Kevin Nash. I think there's a generational fandom thing where I
Yeah.
think wrestling fans that are younger that are entering this have less of a tolerance. Like you mentioned, going back to the days of Crime Time. For me, it was going back to the days of my dad being pissed off seeing Saba Simba
Ooh.
or seeing
Ooh.
uh, when they had Akeem as the African Dream.
From the deepest, darkest part of Africa.
Right.
That part
Or
always gets me.
Kamala. So many wrestlers talk about Kamala. It's like, oh, that was a great gimmick. It lasted for so long. But at what cost?
Yeah, man. Why? Like you had basically Kamala playing to that sort of like the same kind of stereotype about African people that still to this day they play it, where they're tribal people, they don't know any better, they're cannibals. And like that's playing on like those cartoons that were banned from Warner Brothers in the 60s, that had dudes with like the lip ring and the whole dancing to jazz music. And you know it feels weird for me to say, but like sambo wrestlers, like it's like like I don't want to say Kamala was sort of a minstrel show act, but he kind of was, like, just dragged out there because they filmed the thing in the backyard of Jerry Jarrett's house, and it he didn't speak, he didn't have a mind of his own. It was, I mean, it was a different time, but still it was the 80s. Like, that really was just like 40 years ago, and we're making this jungle man a gimmick. It
Yeah.
it was distasteful, man.
Well, think about it, Dr. Larry, and Tennessee, jump in, please. One of the things I always thought about was when I look at wrestling from the 80s and 90s, you talk about Kamala, but I did a piece like years ago in the Torch about even, like The Rock having to fight both worlds. Because as a
Mm.
black guy, he had to fight against being like this hard up thug. But then as being Samoan, you know, his uncles, his cousins had to wrestle barefoot and eat raw fish in order for
Yeah.
them to be seen as like tough guys. Or
Yeah, no,
looking
yeah,
at, Ron Simmons. We were going to do that match with Ron Simmons. And when he gets to WWE, he becomes Farouk Assad. And he gets Sonny, which is the biggest trope in the world of the big black guy with the blonde woman. And then he gets the Nation, and then gets kicked out of that because The Rock evolves past them making fun of Louis Farrakhan and turn it into something where it's just cool. Kind of
yeah,
like the Hurt Business today.
yeah. I absolutely loved Ron Simmons growing up, because kayfabe a little broken. My first name is Ron too. Don't step to Ron. And like, when I saw Ron Simmons come to WWF at the time, wearing that weird Spartan helmet thing, that was odd. And then, as a kid, I watched him beat up Ahmed Johnson, and I liked Ron Simmons more than Ahmed Johnson, so I thought that was cool. But then I go back there with 2026 eyes, and I listen to the promo he cut on Ahmed Johnson, and I don't know if y'all ever listened to that. If you guys ever heard that promo,
Oh, yeah.
it's
Calling him
very
Uncle Tom
uncomfortable,
and all
bro.
that stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, I remember it.
we're still into it this day. My friend and my partner in my news podcast, State of Wrestling, Arturo, always says, if you're watching WWE, usually the people of color are always feuding with people of color. If you have Latinos, the Latinos are always feuding with other Latinos. Black wrestlers always feuding with other black wrestlers or tag teaming with other black wrestlers. It's it's still weird It's weird segregation now compared to where we were in 2019, in 2022. There's this weird segregation we see now on modern WWE TV that wasn't there before. Like it's sort of weird to me. And but like acts we see like the Hurt Syndicate, they hit for a generation of us fans who I'm not gonna speak to your age, Rich, because I don't want to do that to you. But like as an older fan,
Oh
I
no, you
love
don't have to worry about doing it. I'll be
yo
45 in May.
yo.
I'm happy with my age. I'm glad.
I'm 41, bro. So we see like Shelly and Bobby were like legends to me. Those are legends to me. Like Shelton Benjamin was one of the greatest. Like still is to this day one of the best athletes in pro wrestling. Bobby Lashley, I loved him, man. I love Bobby Lashley. The dude had so much wrestling matches that I enjoyed, so many moments that I enjoyed, and those two still look like insane for being 50. That's but yeah, Tennessee. What you have to say, man?
I'd have to say, that thing about that weird segregation thing that you brought up.
Yeah,
It always on board back around them times during the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, whatever, with the people in charge and how they see you.
yeah, man. I always think, because one of the big subjects, especially in higher education, is like what's that word again? Where affirmative action, right?
Yeah.
So unfortunately for a lot of like Asian people, they got overlooked because our grades were too good, right? So we'll be overlooked to get accepted into things. But affirmative action was not ever about that. We're keeping people out of school. We're trying to give, the opportunities from people from other communities, from different like situations, whether that be financial or whatever, to be able to have the opportunity to attend college. That's the purpose of affirmative action, and for the most part, it's been successful. Well, mostly for white women, but I obviously there was this whole push from like Asian American people to end affirmative action because the whole culture felt like they were being ignored, even if we are coming from like a bad financial situation. We're just not good enough. We don't get good enough grades to bypass that affirmative action. That was the whole trick, and I think a lot of that is also played on people's misconceptions on what affirmative action was, and what affirmative action is, and what the point of affirmative action was supposed to be. A lot of that also happens to be coming from people who, one I would say are racist always, and one love playing people of color against each other. So that becomes like the whole thing, the whole game. Fuck you, Elon Musk, for saying that Asian people are not people of color. That's really fucked up. I don't know why you would do that. I absolutely hate that there's this sort of disconnect between society, between the internet, between wrestling fans, and there's sort of like this, how I would say, cognitive dissonance between seeing what's on screen and expecting what's in reality. I'm going to quote a racist here because, it sucks so much. But Bill Watts, okay, racist piece of shit. I'm going to say that off the top, okay? Bill Watts. He said, if all the greatest athletes, if the people who are dominating in combat sports and football and basketball are all African American, why aren't they portrayed that way in pro wrestling if we're trying to be the most real form of entertainment? And to speak to his point, he presented guys like JYD, like Butch Reed, like Ron Simmons as the top guys for him. And in my estimation, they were all successes in some ways with their positions, especially JYD as a top guy in Mid-South. Why do you guys think that we don't really see that many people of color in these positions?
Well, as I said earlier, most of our society, they love the holding, clinging on to the status quo. They believe the status quo is always going to lead them to the prosperity. Um, and just if they see somebody of color and they think they're going to give them a chance, they give them a chance and they do well, it's too quick. They'll take it away. Just as easy as that.
Apologies, gents. I was doing the old Duber pickup. Yeah, I think Tennessee's right in terms of you look at folks getting a chance, they get it until they don't, and a lot of times it's a reflection of who gets the trust and who doesn't. And it's funny you mentioned Bill Watts because in terms of like to your point right there, Dr. Larry, in terms of Bill Watts, he was one of the first people to give a black wrestler the book, and the Big Cat Ernie Ladd, former NFL player turned pro wrestler. And the reason he gave him the book was because he understood the territory better than everyone. And he was able to manipulate the crowds and get them in a way and book them in a way where he was the biggest, baddest dude on the roster and everybody wanted to see him. And Watts, despite his racism, liked money more than his hatred. And I think right now with the modern wrestling, there aren't too many people who are willing to take that step back. And so sometimes it becomes paternalistic and it's like a pat on the head, or, you know, you get someone that breaks out and they get stuck because you only see them one way. You mentioned Sami Zayn. I think a lot of what happened to Sami Zayn first happened to Kofi Kingston. And then we had Kofi Mania, but then we get that Brock Lesnar moment that knocked him right back down.
Yeah, and seeing that and seeing a lot of seeing a lot of guys get disheartened when Kofi just lost like that. It wasn't that Kofi lost, right? He's gonna lose to Brock Lesnar, right? It's the way he lost, and like we were coming off of like matches that Brock Lesnar had with like AJ Styles and Bryan Danielson and Finn Balor. Like these are great matches that he's had with these guys just in the current period. And you know, we were expecting like more of that with Kofi, right? Because it was a big debut on Fox. And instead, Kofi throws the Thunder Trouble in Paradise and gets caught and gets F5, and then that's it. And then he's no longer in that position and no longer in a position to be put as a top guy. It's and you know, like it's a shame what happened with Big E when he broke his neck when he did, because they were finally coming back from pandemic era, and he probably would be one of the top guys. Like he would have been one of the top guys. Bobby Lashley was, he won the WWE title. He had those victories over Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. But we don't see the guys like that anymore in these positions in WWE. And it's hard to see like if it'll happen again. I mean, I'm very hopeful for guys like Trick Williams and Obafemi, because they fit that whole, they had the look, the size, the mic skills to be at that level. But will they ever be pushed at that level? To speak to your point, like on Bill Watts understanding that Ernie Ladd knows New Orleans, right? He knows like what the people like on the ground level, like what they're expecting from their top faces. So guys like Butch Reed, guys like JYD, they're among the people. My friend Creole Kenny, his dad actually was security for JYD when they would come to New Orleans, and JYD would come over to his grandma's house like every so often. That's just a story I like to share. His story I share. You're gonna hear him here on soon. And I think not having people in the room that are people of color, that are there to speak for wrestlers who are people of color, and book these stories, and having that trust with the writers and the wrestlers, I think that's something that they should be doing. And I know there are some writers who are people of color in WWE.
Yeah, one
Yeah, and I think that's something that should be happening more often. Is you would want people to speak for other people. You want somebody there to be an advocate for you because not a lot of people have that time with the boss. You know, whether that be in WWE or elsewhere. You know, it's a kind of a shame because I follow New Japan, but you know how it works with Japan and like entertainment things. A guy like Kevin Knight was never going to be a top guy in New Japan, and it's no fault of his own. But I wish we saw more of it. I wish we saw more of it, but you know, we are seeing people in different positions and different like races, cultures, different sexes. It's great to see, you know, to see that rise of Naomi to where she was at last year. It's great to see when Bianca was on top and like everybody was like, she was one of the best there is going. I mean, it's good that Jade Cargill is a world champion in WWE. It's great to see this variation, right? It's good. And the more it's normalized in pro wrestling, the more accepted it will become in pro wrestling. And it's a shame that we're still having this conversation in 2026. It's a shame. It doesn't make sense to me why we're having this conversation here. But we are. And sometimes that's because wrestling is always playing catch up to everything else. And, you know, I'm hoping eventually we get there. I'm like, you know, a part of me is disappointed a bit in AEW because a lot of their main event picture is just white guys. And that's not shade on No Hangman Page. That's not shade on John Moxley. That's not shame on any of them because, you know, those are big names in pro wrestling. But I just wish, like, it would be more than just Swerve Strickland, you know. That's just me. That's just me. What do you guys think?
Well, for me, I think it's like I take it as it comes because one, I think wrestling in general, sometimes as much as we talk about the bookers and we talk about the way things are set up.
That son's very polite. He opened the door for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, sir. See, my son's getting compliments on being polite, letting people ahead of him opening doors.
Hey,
I like it. I like it. So
that boy's raised right.
I try, man. It's a team effort, me and my wife. But like that even goes to that point. Like, as much as I would want him to like pro wrestling, he's gonna like what he likes. And on the same time, for me, when it comes to the bookers and who people push, sometimes they like who they like. It's not that I don't dislike. It's not like I dislike Hangman Page, to your point, with like AEW roster and the men's singles thing. I get that, but there's also something to be said that, you know, the reason that a guy like when you look at Powerhouse Hobbs, he jumped because just like when Swerve jumped from WWE, he felt like he wasn't being seen in the way that the other company sees him now. And so I think the fact that there are two big promotions is really helpful for this because it forces people to put literally their money where their mouth is. If you sign a Swerve Strickland to one of the biggest contracts in wrestling, you then have to push him like that. If you sign a guy like Powerhouse Hobbs or Royce, Mr. Royce now, you have to push him to that. And I think the more you do that monetarily, the more you kind of force those guys, even if there's someone not in the room, to respect it. I think WWE's biggest mistake over the years was similar to like that Kevin Nash situation, relying on non-persons of color that you saw was cool. Like if you remember the famous situation with Doc Hendricks slash
dirty words, man.
Oh my God.
Mark Henry?
Freebird. Yeah. When you think about Freebird and what he said to Mark Henry, that's because a dude grew up in a situation where he thought that he could say that as much as he wants, and it was cool. Whereas Mark Henry, like, could have ripped his head off and thrown it back at his body, but he had to show restraint because that dude was on another level in terms of like how level his level of tripping.
Yeah.
AEW, thankfully, we haven't had those issues. I think it's like course correction. And I think in the long run, I'd rather have a little course correction with the booking. But going back to what I said, the people see what they want to see. A lot of times when I bring these things up on the torch, I get AEW fans that, what about back to WWE, and don't want to discuss possibly changing up the top of the card in AEW.
Yeah, that happened. A lot of people get defensive of their favorite federation, no matter what it is. Like, I love New Japan, but they make so many mistakes with a lot of what they do, and like I'm willing to like face AEW and say, hey man, there's these things, like especially like how they book women to a certain point. The women's division is one of the most interesting things about AEW, and the women are not treated with enough respect. And whenever I bring that up, people always say, "But what about WWE?" I'm like, "Yeah, but we're talking AEW right now." There has been points where I thought like, I knew that Tony versus Mercedes was not going to main event All In, so that might have been like the worst time to run that program. But I if there was anybody, any two wrestlers who would have main evented an AEW pay per view, it could have been Mercedes versus Tony Storm. Like there's progress made, but there's still strides that have to be made. There's still changes that need to be made. There's still chances that need to be taken on other talents, and you know I'm just happy that wrestlers have this opportunity now to go from different promotion to different promotion to get the kind of booking and respect that they believe they deserve. All that didn't work out for a lot of people. Shout out to you, Miro. Shame, shame about you, Miro. But yeah, I absolutely love this conversation we had because it's a hard discussion to have, man. When you're faced with like, is my favorite promotion really doing their best, and you say no, they're not. With a lot of talent, they're not. Because like I always say this all the time. I would rather see Red Velvet on my TV, Athena on my TV, than like than a Sisters of Sin week to week to week to week. Every week the Sisters of Sin, but certain sisters aren't allowed to be on the AEW TV sometimes. Pun intended.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on it. I like that. I like that fun too because I am always on Athena watch and trying to see because anytime I interview Tony during those press conferences, I'll ask about Athena, and he's like, "She's doing great. She's the longest reigning Ring of Honor champion." I think that's great, but nobody has like when you're watching Ring of Honor, that's at best 50 to 100,000 people who might have a subscription.
Yeah.
AEW has up to 1 million people watching when you think of like 3 days after the event on Dynamite, and I only saw her when it was like again to your point with WWE, similar situation. She was either involved in a tag match or in the sphere of Mercedes, and
Yeah.
I was like, well, she's awesome. You don't need another Penelope Ford match. You don't.
we we could put the best wrestlers on the biggest show of the week. We don't we don't have to hide them in Ring of Honor. That's just my point. Like, because there's these talented wrestlers they have.
You could just get like 10 cast-offs from the Performance Center, and you got a women's division.
Yeah, man. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I started disconnected here on my laptop, so now I am on my phone. So let me just reset here. I am on my phone. So let me just reset here. I got you guys on my phone. We're going. Um, but yeah, I gotta say, there's there's this sort of like shift. There's this tonal shift in pro wrestling and pro wrestling discussion where talking about this sort of uncomfortable thing about like are wrestlers like really given this opportunity to expand their thing again. Like, why do we have another Sisters of Sin match? Why do we have another Penelope Ford match? And that's not shade on Penelope Ford. That's not shade on them, on the Sisters of Sin, on Thekla. It's just like as wrestling fans, well, there's been sort of this expectation because AEW uses the tagline all the time. You guys know it. We're the best wrestle, right? And I don't feel like it's like that at all times. Like if I see Persephone, Olympia, Taya Valkyrie, Diana Perrazzo, Red Velvet, Athena, Billy Starks, Diamante. If I see all of these wrestlers on Ring of Honor, and these are some of the best talents you have on the roster, and I say best talents overall you have on the roster, who are over with the crowd, and they're not being utilized on TV. You're just utilizing the same seven wrestlers, mix and match. It just shows me that there isn't that much care being put into this division that's been sort of like lauded as, oh, this is the best women's division that there's ever been. Yeah, on paper, it might be, right? Because you have all this great talent. I just named all of them. But how many of them are being used? Like, how many other wrestlers are getting these opportunities that Tony Storm is getting on TV? Like, uh, it's like to the point where even someone like, uh, even though she's a white woman, Jamie Hayter has barely been used on television in favor of other wrestlers because they have a certain aesthetic to them. It's pretty confusing to me, honestly.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I look at uh, Jamie's a great example because before her knee injury, she was right up there with Tony and some of the other women. Top act that people were just all about. I look at what is it? What do they call the tag team with Penelope and the Megasis?
Oh, Mega
Megan.
Man.
Mega
Bad.
Mega Bad. Thank you. Like I look at Megan Bain, and she should just be by herself.
Yo.
I look at say uh, uh, what's the young lady's name who has been on TV? Brickhouse, Camille Brickhouse.
Oh
Like
yeah.
these
Oh.
are she's and it's where Britt Baker. You have some of these folks where like if Tony gets you in that you're in that naughty place and you don't get put on TV anymore. But I'm like you could use a Camille, even if you don't want to push her. Having a match against Megan Bain, having matches against some of these other women you're establishing, you give a Goliath to a David, and that's always going to get people to want to watch.
That'd be
And I
great.
feel like sometimes Tony cuts his nose to spite his face with some of these push options because, I mean, not everyone, like Britt Baker isn't the best wrestler in the world, but when Britt and Swole had their match, they elevated each other.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was 5-6 years ago.
Yeah. And we talk about Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa is persona non grata on AEW TV. I'm not sure why. It's just it's a little bit perplexing that there's forward movement on them, but they still can only get like two segments on TV. Uh, there's all this interest around the women's wrestlers in AEW, but there's like not a lot of effort by the company itself to push them in that sort of like, oh, here are the people to watch for. And it's been like sort of like a merry-go-round of the same wrestlers being placed in the same place. Uh, you know, I love Willow, right? But this is pretty much the same circle she was in. What was it, 2024 when she won the TBS belt? It's
Yeah.
sort of like you know, sort of the same wrestlers on the same go around. We take some wrestlers off and put some wrestlers back in, but like there's certain wrestlers like
if you've watched Ring of Honor and you've seen Red Velvet and Athena and the work they put in over the last 2, 3 years, you'd also be wondering why they're not on TV. It's it's weird. Like when I saw Red Velvet work CMLL and some of those Amazonas cards, and she is like one of the best performers on those cards. I'm like, how is she not ready for prime time? She is one of your homegrown people that could be put on TV. Riho, where is Riho? Where is Yuka? Where are these people? But I digress. Like I just like I love having this conversation. It's real conversations, and I think I'm gonna just ask you guys this, because we're talking about Black excellence in pro wrestling. Who are some of your favorite talents and some of your favorite memories of Black wrestlers in pro wrestling?
For me, I'm gonna go as a kid. I used to love Two Cold Scorpio.
Oh, brother. Okay. Hopefully we keep you on long enough so that we can watch that shit. What was it about Tuco Scorpio? Because we're not gonna walk, we're gonna step. So what was it about Tuco that stood out to you, man?
Man, he was so cool with his dance moves, being innovative, just flipping around, doing for 50 moonsaults.
Dude. Uh, Xavier Woods always talks about like how he did that moonsault into a leg drop. Nobody's doing that. And like well, he was a big dude too back then. Like he was like about like 220, 230, doing like 450s, moonsaults, backflip, leg drops. Nobody was doing that back in 1992, 1991 when he was doing that. Like, the dude was a beast, man. I love Tickle Scorpio. You know, awesome, man. How about you, Rich? Who are some of your favorite performers or moments in Black Pro
Yeah,
Wrestling?
I mean, I'll join in with you guys with Too Cold. I was blessed enough to see him in oh God, where was I? I want to say it was the WrestleMania in Philadelphia. They had the GCW shows that week, and since the pandemic, Too Cold, whenever he would go out and travel, would wrestle with a surgical mask on, an N90, and he wouldn't blow up. Like the fact that that dude at his age now has the cardio where he can wrestle a full wrestling match with a face mask on and still be like not out of breath was just magnificent. Like that dude's just one of one. But for me, I think a wrestler, and I'll go back to when I was a kid, and he kind of shaped me when I was in college, and I even showed it to my son. Bad News Brown,
Oh
because when I
man.
was younger, Bad News was like, sure, okay, in WWE, he was all right. Again, he was a person I never saw the Enziguri before. Bad News did it and called it the Ghetto Blaster. But when I was looking it up, and I was like a teenager, I was about my son's age, and I found out that Bad News basically went from not being in judo to learning judo and then getting a bronze medal at the Olympics in judo. I was like, this dude's awesome. I got to do whatever this judo was. And it was a combination of him and Taz that got me into judo and jujitsu when I was in college. And that kind of pushed me even to this day. Like when I think about the work I did and the injuries I fought through, and in the back of my head, I was like, this dude came from nothing to bronze medalist in this sport. The least I can do is try to beat this guy in this tournament. So like I was just the only regret I ever had was I never got a chance to beat Bad News and kind of thank him. I mean, because the stories about him on the bus with Andre the Giant, when Andre tried to talk slick and he had to stop the bus and tell him like, "Hey, what'd you say to me?" and punched him in the face. Like I'm like, this dude, you don't mess with Bad News.
Hey man, Bad News Brown, Bad News Allen, one of the baddest dudes on the planet. Rich, I love competing in jiu-jitsu and catch wrestling because that was my stuff. There's a certain different level of respect you have for for these guys. You grow a level of respect for wrestlers if you're a wrestling fan and you do jiu-jitsu or judo and you do all the break falls before we do the actual training. Like doing all those drills kind of makes me like because we do the break falls, we do the tumbling, and you see that all the time when they show like the NXT Performance Center and all the wrestlers are doing the same drills we would do in as the pre-workouts in jiu-jitsu or judo. Man, I love that. We could talk judo all day, bro. But yeah, man, that's excellent to hear, man. And you know, bad news, Allen. Bad news, Brown. Tuco Scorpio. I loved Ron Simmons growing up when he won the world title from Big Van Vader. That was the first world title change I've ever seen live. To me, it was live. I didn't know it was taped. To me, it was live, and just to see that, and to see like that dude in the front row do the star jump when Ron Simmons won, and there's like this palpable excitement in the arena. They have all the black kid fans like run to the front row because like they didn't know what they're seeing. They were going crazy like in the front row like for Ron Simmons hits the power slam. 1, 2, 3. We're all excited. That's one of the moments for me that sticks out because um, to me it didn't hit me like as like, oh, this is big for black people. This is big for pro wrestling to have a black world champion. It was more like this is my favorite wrestler fighting one of my other favorite wrestlers for the world title, and he won, and I saw it, and that's what made me go crazy. And I want to thank both of y'all for coming here and sharing this time with me. Uh, I'm gonna put a little pause here because I'm gonna switch tracks.
We'll definitely have to run that back on a night where I'm not on dad duty because I love Marcus and Tuco, Marcus and Scotty Riggs. Basically, any Bagwell tag team, I was down in fact.
Bro, Marcus and the Patriots, Stars and Stripes. Are you kidding me? But yeah, I want to thank you, Tennessee and Rich, for joining me. We're here celebrating Black excellence. We're here talking about pro wrestling and the things that are hard to discuss about it. And I just love having you guys on here. I love sharing the diversity of wrestling fans because as a Filipino American, sharing this time with two African Americans, I love having this exchange of cultures, exchange of ideas, exchange of thought, exchange of of fandom, and we're sharing this fandom. We share this one fandom of pro wrestling, and you two are two of my favorite people to talk to. And next time we really got to get that Tuco Scorpio and Ron Simmons matches in because, I am so down to watch those matches. Like, but yeah, man, we're at the end of the show, so I'm gonna ask you guys for your plugs. Tennessee, you just started a new thing, right? So where can people catch you, bro?
Yeah, on YouTube, name on Ten410. Yeah, me and my best friend made our own list about the top 10 black wrestlers.
Yeah, man, that'll be linked in the episode description. Of course, we have Rich Fann from PWTorch, but you have anything to plug, Mr. Rich Fann?
Sure, I would say obviously my stuff at the Torch, pwtorch.com/govip, or the stuff I do with my man WH Park over at Post Wrestling. We step away from wrestling a little bit and we jump into the MCU. We do MCU and DCU later, where we cover Marvel and DC cinematic and television universes. That's been really fun for me because as much as I love talking wrestling, and WH is quite adept at talking about Japanese wrestling, Mid-South, all that fun stuff, having us chop it up and have folks come on and talk about like what got them into comics, what got them into the MCU or the DCU has been really enjoyable the last few years, especially because my late uncle was a person who got me into comics, and so that's something I can kind of give back to other folks because we try not to do like hating. Like we might do like an episode where we're watching a bad movie. Like if you ever seen the original Captain America movie, oof,
basura.
It's brutal. It's brutal. But I want to enjoy it and laugh. I don't want to be like, oh, this sucked. I don't have energy.
Have you guys gotten to Wonder Man yet? Because I absolutely loved Wonder Man.
Yep. What we did was we broke it up into 2 episodes at a time. So this Friday will be the last 2 episodes.
Okay, I got it.
And so being able to talk about that and break down how the 7th episode had me tear up in the movie theater with the scene with his dad, because it was just reminded me a lot of my relationship with my dad as a kid, or my uncle, whenever things were like, bad, like going to the comic shop and getting a comic, or going to see a movie, and then the future of Wonder Man, what we think he might do in the MCU, and it's just, like I said, it's really cool. One of the things I'm glad about, and even doing the show with you, Dr. Larry, and with you in Tennessee, is I try as much as possible with wrestling and stuff outside of my job just to say yes, because there's so many experiences, so many people you can meet, so many things you can chop it up with, and so much of that's left out if you just kind of stay in your silo.
Yeah, man, and go to the Patreon, go to PWTorch, subscribe to this, man. Go to the Post Wrestling Patreon, join at the cafe level. You'll get access to MCU later, all that stuff. I love the boys over at Post Wrestling. Past guests of the show, good friends of mine, WH Park and WH Park, Whiting, and of course the incredible Professor Ely. Love the guys over at Post Wrestling. Love having you here, Rich. I know this is not your first time here, but is it going to be the first time you're going to air on here? Yes, people. I have recorded shows with Mr. Rich Fann. You're going to hear him. You're going to see him. I promise. They're going to be out there. And yeah, man, this has been an honor to spend the time again with you guys. And I'm going to take us out with some daily affirmations. This is not religious, but like, I am a man of God. I'm a man of Christ. I follow that stuff, but it has nothing to do with that. This is about good vibes, positive vibes out there. So let me get this doing. So I want to thank Brother Rich, Brother Tennessee for coming on here today, spending this time and like having this great discussion about Black excellence in pro wrestling and diversity, and wanting the best for everyone in pro wrestling that comes from like these sort of like, we see ourselves as second class citizens, even though we shouldn't be, especially because I'm going to make this very clear. I am a citizen. These men are citizens, so we should all have the same freedoms and rights as everybody else. But that's, for some people, that's asking for too much. But for me, being able to spread the love of pro wrestling, the joy of pro wrestling, to share these memories of pro wrestling with two guys who I know are absolute fans of pro wrestling, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure, and I hope for nothing but the best of you, man. Hearing Rich's son get that compliment from the coach of like, your son is very polite. He held the door open for everybody so they could go out first. Brother, you are doing the best job as a dad. I gotta commend you for that, man. And Tennessee, man, I love your YouTube, your list of top 10 Black wrestlers. That was pretty good stuff, man. I'm hoping the best for you guys. You guys are doing great work, and I hope to hear more from you. So from Dr. Lariat to Rich Fann to Tennessee, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing big things, and I see big things for you. This is The Prescription. This is Dr. Lariat. See you later. Actually, I say see you next time.
I'd like to take your mind back to the 3rd chapter in the book of Acts.
Mitko.